Dovolte mi tedy nyní, abych i já vyslovil osobně svoji podporu Taiwanu a nejvyšší hodnotě svobody. Abych skončil své dnešní vystoupení tady u vás v legislativním dvoře, tedy u vás na Taiwanu, možná skromnějším, ale stejně důrazným prohlášením. Já jsem Tajvanec. Uož Taiwan žen. Přeji vám.
Czech Senate President Milos Vystrčil, who visited Taiwan on September 1st, addressed the legislative chamber. This was the first time in 45 years that a foreign speaker addressed the legislative chamber in Taiwan. It was also the first speaker from a country without diplomatic relations to do so. The speech was modeled after that of U.S. President John F. Kennedy in 1963, who used a similar phrase, "I am a Berliner," to express his dissatisfaction and opposition to the communist dictatorship in West Berlin. The international community generally accepts the One China policy demanded by the Chinese Communist Party.
台湾是中国不可分割的一部分，这已经是国际社会的普遍共识。
There is only one China. Taiwan is an integrated part of China. This is a general consensus.
And so, no sovereign country in the world has established diplomatic relations with both the People's Republic of China and Taiwan, the Republic of China. Vystrčil's actions angered Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, who was visiting Europe and had already arrived in Germany on the last stop of his European tour.
采取这种行动的反对的态度，一定要去中国的台湾去，而且把台湾公开把它称为国家，甚至还号召其他的欧洲其他国家也要跟着他去学。这不就是一种公开的挑衅吗？所以我们要告诉捷克的参议长，你过线了。
Wang said that the Chinese government and the Chinese people will not sit by idly, and we must make him pay a heavy price for his short-sighted actions and political opportunism. Wang's 2-week visit to Europe was aimed at testing China's relationship with Europe and to counter the United States' influence in Europe. Wang Yi chose Italy for his first stop and Germany for the last stop. These two countries are the most friendly to China in Europe. But Wang Yi did not expect that his trip would neither have a good start nor a decent end. On August 25th, Wang Yi met with Italian Foreign Minister Luigi Di Maio in Rome. Prior to the meeting between the Italian and Chinese foreign ministers, exiled Hong Kong democracy activist Nathan Law sent a letter to Foreign Minister Di Maio expressing his hope that during the meeting with Wang Yi, he would state his position on the Hong Kong issue and the serious human rights violations currently taking place in China. Members of 5 Italian political parties also formally asked Di Maio to publicly express parliamentary support for Hong Kong when meeting with Wang Yi. When Wang Yi and Di Maio met with reporters after the meeting, Di Maio mentioned Hong Kong, saying that
sulla base del principio un paese, due sistemi siano essenziali e come sia altrettanto indispensabile preservare l'alto grado di autonomia e i diritti e le libertà fondamentali assicurate ai cittadini della regione amministrativa speciale. Seguiremo con molta attenzione i risvolti dell'introduzione della legge sulla sicurezza nazionale.
Wang Yi responded that the national security law was enacted to close a legal loophole in Hong Kong. One detail worth noting is that Wang Yi, being a guest of Italy, did not receive a meeting from Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte. Instead, the Italian Prime Minister chose to speak to him over the phone. This is in contrast to Wang Yi's visit to Italy in 2019, where Conte met with him personally, while at the same time expressing support for China's Belt and Road project. Wang Yi's next stop was the Netherlands. He was to talk to the Dutch Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sept, concerning an economic partnership between the two countries. However, during the press conference, rather than talking about an economic partnership, Steph Block went into details of human rights discussions, such as Hong Kong and Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang. Block said the recent arrests in Hong Kong of lawmakers and journalists, the postponement of the elections for the Legislative Council and the National Security Law are worrying developments. Dutch lawmaker Martin van Helvert, a member of the current ruling coalition of the Dutch government, rejected the partnership. He said the Netherlands will not resume business with Beijing amidst China's human rights violations. On his third stop in Norway, Wang Yi met with Prime Minister Erna Solberg and Foreign Minister Ine Eriksen Søreide. During their joint press conference, Wang Yi casted doubt on the coronavirus originating in China. He was also asked about a member of the Norwegian parliament nominating Hong Kong people for the Nobel Peace Prize.
无论是过去、现在还是将来，中国都坚决地反对任何人利用诺贝尔和平奖来干涉中国的内政，这一立场坚定不移。我们不希望看到诺贝尔和平奖
However, Wang failed to realize the Nobel Committee is not under the Norwegian government's jurisdiction. It operates independently from the government. It is for this reason that the Nobel Peace Prize is not politicized. If the Norwegian government did restrict the Nobel Committee from giving Hong Kong protesters the prize, then it would be politicized. Norway's Prime Minister Erna Solberg has stated that the Nobel Committee is independent of the government. We do not set guidelines or enter into discussions about the Nobel Committee's priorities. What we are working on is to show that there is a difference between the Nobel Committee and the government. Wang Yi met with French President Emmanuel Macron on August 28th. The day before Wang Yi arrived in France, Bouygues Telecom announced that the company would comply with the government's 5G security requirements and remove 3,000 Huawei antennae in batches in very densely populated areas. Macron said that he has informed Chinese President Xi Jinping that he prefers companies like Ericsson and Nokia. He also said that based on the importance of our communication security, we would want a European solution. This statement is considered to be China's failure to fight for Huawei to break through in Europe. Wang's last stop was Germany. Many analysts believe that Germany wants to use China to engage in political protest with the United States and maintain Germany's importance in the EU and internationally. While in Germany, Wang Yi criticized the Czech Chancellor for visiting Taiwan. German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas responded.
Tschechischen Kollegen, wo es einen Konflikt gibt wegen eines Taiwan-Besuchs des tschechischen Senatspräsidenten. Und wie Sie wissen, handeln wir als Europäer in der Außen- und Sicherheitspolitik in engem Schulterschluss. Und wir begegnen unseren internationalen Partnern mit Respekt. Und wir erwarten dasselbe genauso umgekehrt und Drohungen.
German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas also hopes that China will continue to implement one country, two systems for Hong Kong, and that the elections for the Hong Kong Legislative Council be resumed as soon as possible. Wang Yi's criticism of the Czech Republic almost instantly united Europe's traditionally divided nations. French Foreign Ministry spokesman Agnes van der Molle said relations between China and Europe must be based on dialogue, reciprocity, and mutual respect. Any threat from China to a member state of the European Union cannot be accepted. Wang Yi's threats were even less effective in the Czech Republic. The Czech Foreign Ministry summoned China's ambassador to Prague and demanded an explanation for what it called outrageous remarks. The mayor of Prague issued an open letter calling Wang Yi a clown and warning him to deliver an apology to the Czech foreign minister within 24 hours. Milos Vystrčil said visiting Taiwan was to prove the Czech Republic is an independent and proud country that will not bow to China's pressure. This visit may not be without consequences, however, as the Czech Republic has companies operating in mainland China, such as Volkswagen subsidiary Skoda Auto or Home Credit. But Vystrčil said in a news conference, "We will either stick to our principles or count pennies. I am leaning towards keeping our values and principles." 2 weeks prior, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo concluded his visit to the Czech Republic, Slovenia, Austria, and Poland. The United States is working hard to establish a transatlantic alliance against the CCP.
Today, an even greater threat is the threat posed by the Chinese Communist Party and its campaigns of coercion and control. The regime has a Marxist-Leninist core no less than the Soviet Union did, and indeed perhaps more so. And it's paranoid about free societies like ours. Americans now recognize that the CCP, which is totally separate from the Chinese people, threatens their values and their way of life. But it's going to take all of us. It will take us working together here in Prague, in Poland, and Portugal. We have to talk to them about what sorts of alliances are needed to be built between the United States and Europe and around the world to withstand and resist this threat.
As Pompeo finished his European trip, Wang began his. It is clear that Europe is the continuation of the conflict between the United States and China, and both countries are seeking its support. On August 30th, during a speech delivered by Wang Yi at the French Institute of International Relations, he expressed willingness to work together with Europe towards anti-separatism and anti-bullying. Wang Yi's words are directed towards the United States. During his visit to Europe, Wang Yi portrayed China as a supporter of multilateralism and called for joint efforts with Europe to revive its economy, which has been battered by the novel coronavirus. He also drew attention to China's official economic rebound data. The CCP has always believed in the persuasiveness of economic benefits. Since Trump moved into the White House, the United States' support to Europe in terms of economic benefits has not increased but rather decreased. In 2018, the Trump administration imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum in Europe and requested adjustments in the proportion of capital contributed by NATO countries. According to the new version of the agreement in 2019, the United States has reduced its investment ratio, and Germany's funding has increased to the same as that of the United States. Other allies will also increase their funding ratio. Despite this, it is clear that Europe is now moving closer to the United States rather than the CCP. According to outside analysis, China is accused of covering up the coronavirus that caused a global pandemic. They are accused of using equipment from Chinese telecom Huawei to gather intelligence for the Chinese government. They are committing human rights violations in Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Xinjiang. These events have continuously occurred in 2020 and have made European countries become aware of the importance of values and principles rather than economic benefits. When Pompeo visited Europe, he said Europe is not choosing sides between China and the United States, but rather it is choosing between freedom and totalitarianism. Pompeo is an American official that the CCP does not like. On August 25th, China's most important official media used 30,000 words in 3 full pages to refute Pompeo's speech at the Nixon Presidential Library in California. An article of this length criticizing a foreign politician has not appeared in China since the end of the Cultural Revolution in the 1970s. The first item in the rebuttal was Pompeo's claim that the Chinese people do not equal the Chinese Communist Party.
You know, I grew up and served my time in the Army during the Cold War, and if there's one thing I learned, communists almost always lie. The biggest lie that they tell is to think that they speak for 1.4 billion people who are surveilled, oppressed, and scared to speak out.
Also, on September 3rd, Chinese President Xi Jinping expressed 5 things that he would never agree to at a symposium in Beijing. The first of these is that the Chinese people will never agree to any attempt by anyone or any force to separate or antagonize the CCP and the Chinese people. The CCP has always tied itself to the Chinese people. When Wang Yi threatened the Speaker of the Czech Parliament, he regarded himself as a representative of the Chinese people. He said Vystrčil's visit to Taiwan is making an enemy of 1.4 billion Chinese people. However, the U.S. has made acknowledgments that there is a clear distinction between the Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese people. Wang Yi's not-so-successful trip to Europe might make the CCP realize that the international situation has changed dramatically, that more European countries are choosing to stand with the U.S. In a sense, it can be said that Europe has chosen to stand with the Chinese people. Thank you for watching today's video. If you're interested in our channel and topics we discuss, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you can be alerted when new videos are released. See you next time.